Gideon, why don't we start off? Tell me a little bit about the story of Drucker Wealth. This is book 2.
This is book 2. How to avoid Henry syndrome. I work one book at a time. I would only ever want to be a financial planner, be in wealth management, if I could bring something to the table. A really successful mentor, role model, and best friend, which is what my dad is, wrapped into one. The newsletter just kind of all had this compounding effect where people were really starting to reach out and looking for financial guidance. Welcome to Beyond the First Million by Drucker Wealth. I'm your host, Gideon Drucker. This is my co-host, Jordan Haines. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we always are. We're primetime players. So last week we spoke about home purchase buying, how we think through buying a primary residence, what to spend, how to, what it costs, how to think through it all. We spoke about my vendetta with a certain individual in Chappaqua that will be unnamed. And this week is going to be a little bit more of, a bottleneck episode, let's say, in that, you've been listening to this podcast for 6 weeks. And yes, I'm choosing to assume that everybody that is listening has gone back and watched and listened to each individual episode in order. It's my podcast. I can pretend what I want. And so you know a little bit about Drucker Wealth and us and, our personal backgrounds, but you don't really know anything about how Drucker Wealth as a firm operates. Now, whether you are looking for a financial planner or you are never going to hire an advisor in your life, both are fine, but either way, you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to us speak about it. So it'd probably be helpful context to know a little bit of where we're coming from, how we do things as a firm, how we work with clients, heck, even how we charge and all of that. We have a newsletter. I think it has over 10,000 people now. Most people that read our newsletter are not going to become clients, right? Just the law of numbers. I consider the whole thing a win. The right people will find us and will become, long-term lifetime clients, and everybody else will get a lot of education, learning, and will have general good vibes towards Drucker Wealth for no other reason than we're helping them and giving them things to think about. That's how we think about this podcast. So this episode is going to be Drucker Wealth specific because, quite frankly, if I were in your shoes, no matter what I was looking for help with or not, I would want to know a little bit about the people that are actually speaking and how they do financial planning on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, but now full host of the podcast, Jordan Haines. And we're going to go back and forth a little bit about the Drucker Wealth story as it is today.
I will now monologue for 30 minutes. Just kidding. I'm going to ask Gideon a couple questions. My story at Drucker Wealth is a small blip in the grand scheme of things in terms of how long Drucker Wealth has been around, all sorts of things. So I'm going to ask Gideon a few questions to understand a little bit more about the story so you can get some context behind where we're at today, how we got here, and where we're going. So we're going to kind of follow the story. So tell me a little bit about the story of Drucker Wealth, how it's kind of gotten to where it is today. And then I'll ask you a little bit about your personal story and how you fit into all that.
Yeah. So Drucker Wealth, my grandpa actually started, it wasn't called that back then. And it was really, my grandpa and I had one assistant, at the time, but my grandpa started providing financial advice. That's where the Drucker Wealth story started. My dad came into the business, into the firm in 1985. And really my dad was the one that took it to the next level. He really turned it into a financial planning and investment management focused firm, which is just not what it was. As I like to say, my grandpa had the hardest job by getting us to first base, right? Because starting from nothing, which is what my grandpa did, and getting you, to that point is the hardest and most impressive. But my dad was really the one that took us to becoming a firm. He joined in 1985 and really ran the firm for 35 plus years. I came in, I'm obviously condensing the first 50 years of the story a little bit, but I came in end of 2016, started 2017 after I finished my military service in Israel. Whole different podcast that I have been on and spoke about, but maybe at a later point here. But so I joined Drucker Wealth in 2017. At that point, as a firm, we had, I want to say 5 or 6 people. And my dad was really the main advisor, right? Like he had built an incredible business. We had clients that loved us, but it was really, one advisor centric. And I'm pointing that out because I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. But so I started in 2017 and my whole role, I was young. It was go out and find people to tell your story to, right? Like I knew I wanted to be an advisor that went out and found clients. Like the last thing I ever wanted to do, and to this day would be like the son or daughter of the mom or dad that just comes in and like keeps the light on and benefits from the fact of everything their parents set up and they just like don't mess it up type of thing, but keeping things as it is. So I came in and I knew I would only ever want to be a financial planner, be in wealth management, if I could bring something to the table. I needed to be able to go out and find my own clients, do my own thing. So that's what I started doing. And I started working with young professionals because that seemed like the easiest way. I was in my mid 20s speaking to 65-year-olds all day. Just, what life experience do I have to really, tell that story, to really understand where they're at. So I like to say that I started the Wealth Builder division at that point, which is a fancy way of saying I wanted to work with younger folks that it made more sense that I would be working with. So that was all like 2017, 2018, those few years. And I say, I wanted to start my own thing or bring on new clients. Yes, I wanted to do that, but it is not lost on me at any level that I had a better start as a financial planner than 99.9% of anybody that has ever come into the industry, having a really successful mentor, role model, and best friend, which is what my dad is, wrapped into one, right? So, my whole attitude has been, I've had this incredible start. I'm going to work my ass off to make sure it doesn't go on, that I utilize it, right? That I'm putting in the work to make the head start I got, feel worthwhile, right? What really started to change, right? Like that was the direction I and, the Wealth Builder division at Drucker Wealth was going. But actually, I started to write a newsletter. I love to write, and the newsletter started to do pretty well. I turned it into a book that came out in 2020.
This is book two.
This is book two. How to Avoid Henry Syndrome. I work one book at a time. That book was, really for late 20s, 30s. And the book did pretty well. I got lucky a little bit as well that it was COVID, obviously not a great time, but just as far as writing a book, everybody being stuck in their house, us being a virtual firm, the book did pretty well as people were looking for things to do. And the combination of the book, I started doing webinars that I still do, and the newsletter just kind of all had this compounding effect where people were really starting to reach out and looking for financial guidance all around the country. A lot of people in tech, so a lot of people in California and Austin and Denver, as well as New York City. But that really got the momentum going. And it took a year or two. And then I realized, hey, we can build this thing out bigger than just myself, right? There's only so many people I can give financial advice to that I can work with individually. And I really wanted to build out a team of other advisors like yourself and make sure, how do we grow this thing? How can we make sure that we're providing the same level of service, right, to all clients, regardless of who the advisor is, and really have that foundation. So that all happened early 2020s. Our team has, I think when I joined, we were 6 or 7 people. We're approaching, by the time this airs, 16 people on the firm. We'll probably be at 20 by the end of the year. And along the way, we've tried to build different things. So I would say I took over Drucker Wealth, the day-to-day management of the firm 3-4 years ago.
I think what's interesting, and listeners can go back a few episodes and listen to when we talked about financial advisors and finding a financial advisor. Your story and your father's story, I think this is one of the things that impressed me the most as I joined the team and learned more about that story, was that both of you have been anticipating the future needs of clients, right? Like you're growing in your own way. You're modernizing the firm in your own way in the way that Drucker Wealth needs to be. And I think that has been kind of the general theme I've noticed. I'm curious, just as it exists today, what do you feel like is most unique though about Drucker Wealth?
My dad always had the attitude of what's next? How can we do things differently? He was the largest advisor at the broker dealer that we were at for 20 years, I think, in a row, kind of unheard of. And it was, hey, how can we make things better? How can we bring new tech in? How can we do things differently? That was always that has been the core part of Drucker Wealth from day one. We went independent 2 years ago now. So now Drucker Wealth is an independent fiduciary RIA, which basically means we wanted to control every aspect of the client experience. We made that change February 2024. That was, one of the best things we've ever done.
That essentially means operationally, Drucker Wealth can really do what they want.
Exactly. What's unique or interesting about Drucker Wealth is part of where I started, where we are a 3-generation business. We have clients and we have client experiences and client stories going back a really long time. We've seen clients at every step of the journey. The retirement and income division is a lot of them they've been working with for 20, 30, 40 years. That's, really important to have that foundation, right? Of a certain way of doing things, of knowing how to get people where they want to go. And the wealth builder side, which is really the audience we're speaking to, what we're growing, we're hiring for, and what we're building out, is for the high income earning mid 40s that we work with. That has a little bit of a startup feel, even within a structure that's been here for a long time. We are super tech forward. We're thinking about financial planning, not stuck in the way it was done in the 1980s or the 2000s. We're really getting to build the firm that we want to build for the next 10, 20, and 30 years.
Tell me what you think about this. I'm the first generation of being a financial advisor. Academically, right, I know the effects of generally what's going to happen for certain financial behaviors and things like that, right? So financial planning is planning for this ambiguous future for a lot of people who are actively building wealth. I think one of the benefits of Drucker Wealth, this is one of the things that really appealed to me about how the team is structured, and you working with your dad and having that history of, 40 years of anecdotal experience working with real human beings and seeing what the effects of certain behaviors and decisions have in the future. It's a little bit different than just the like academic, looking at
absolutely.
forecast. We've seen this with real people.
Giving advice on paper and giving advice to real people that had, you say one thing and that adds 15 other ways that it might impact them are two totally different things. So my first year as an advisor, I must have sat in, 300 meetings of my dad, of, Gideon, the senior advisor on the retirement side, while I was getting my CFP.
CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner.
Got my CFP while I was sitting in on all of these meetings. If you ask me which was more valuable to actually giving financial advice, and I know you know this. Yeah. It's obvious that actually sitting in on meetings and hearing, all right, well, this is how this is supposed to go on paper. Well, this is what an actual client would say in this situation. Totally different things. We are very specific in who we work with. We work, as we keep saying, high income earning mid-career professionals at a specific stage of life and income. And we are totally comfortable saying, to folks that don't fit that we might not be the right fit for them. Look at every podcast episode we've done to this point. Home purchase buying, education planning. Those would be kind of dumb podcast episodes for somebody that works with somebody in their 70s, right? But for us, it speaks to our entire audience.
I think to summarize, there's like two things that I'm hearing from you that are unique about Drucker Wealth. I think one is just the multi-generation, you, your father, your grandfather have built this thing. The experience that has gone into that has been awesome. And the fact that you have all focused on growth, I think that's one part that makes this unique from other financial planning businesses. The other thing that I'm hearing is the focus of the clients, right? Like, you can know and understand and anticipate the needs of the clients because they're all generally similar. What's it like to work for Drucker Wealth?
The third thing that makes us unique that actually ties to the experience of working here is we are trying to become, and I think we have done a good job already, of becoming a one-stop shop. Meaning we want to have tax, actual preparation and filing. Every advisor should be looking at their client's tax return throughout the year, whether they have tax in-house or not. It's just tax is such a big part of what you do that if you're not looking at the tax return, there would be no way to totally understand the financial picture. So we're bringing in tax, and we have 2 CPAs on the team right now, both hired in the last year because we've really committed to figuring this out, how we're going to provide tax prep and planning to our wealth clients. We have an estate planning specialist in-house, an elite client service team that helps once clients are ready to onboard and move accounts over. We want to make it super easy to do so. We want everybody on the team to really be able to provide value to the client experience. So to answer from the client standpoint, having a one-stop shop just saves so much time and energy and hassle. Like, our clients do not have time to deal with 4 different professionals in their lives from 4 different directions that don't speak to each other, don't know what each other are doing. Anything to make what I do that is not what I do day to day easier, more coordinated, more consolidated. That is our vision. But, our clients, we are well aware we are not the highlight of their week. When we meet with them, they're not like gearing up their whole week of like, oh, cool, Jordan's on the calendar, Gideon's on the calendar. They're saying, I've had 8 meetings today. I need to make dinner. I have to get back on the clock later. We need to make sure that we are being efficient with their time, right? That we are moving things forward in everything we do. And if part of that is we can coordinate with our tax team behind the scenes and our estate planner and bring it all to the forefront at one time rather than they're bouncing around. That is, I think, really cool. And there's only so much one person can do. We can go into tax returns, and we do. But at the end of the day, we're not tax preparers, right? We're not looking at it through that lens. So having somebody in-house that you can call and Slack and say, hey, we have this meeting and we got this tax return back. And let's say it's for a client that we're not doing their taxes. Hey, just help me understand, or is there anything that we need to pick out of that? Like, it doesn't make you a worse advisor because you have somebody, a tax expert, to bring it to you. It makes you better and more well-rounded. You have a team that you can rely on to provide that client experience. I can bring in a CPA to the meeting and we can have this conversation.
One of the big reasons I joined the team is because I feel like as a financial advisor, or a good financial advisor who's really interested in my clients, like, the thing that matters most to me is understanding everything about my clients and then helping the finances make sense to them.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, having a tax team or an estate planning specialist or someone who knows a specific topic within finance, having someone that has that depth of knowledge where that is what they eat, sleep, and breathe is really helpful to access. As you look to the future of Drucker Wealth, where do you want to go? Where do you foresee this business going?
Yeah. For right now, clearly, I just want to go closer to you because the amount of times my chair has just subtly moved this way.
We're slowly drifting.
And I have to
telling you.
And I'm being told that I need to bring you
the
there.
chair, like trying to focus.
Yeah, the chair back. We're just like, I'm really digging you in this conversation, I think is what's happening. I don't know why
Pretty soon we'll be
7 episodes in.
They shouldn't swivel. We should really anchor that.
Yeah, 7 episodes in, I'm just like, Talladega Nights is one of my favorite movies. When he's being interviewed and he's just, I don't know what to do with my hands, and his hands just raising in the middle of the interview. And he brings them down, like the interview brings them down, and then he just like keeps floating them up. Is genuinely, I've made that reference 1,000 times. It's never been more apt because I even feel myself.
You're just drifting.
Gravitating. Where's Drucker Wealth going? we want to do more of this one-stop shop. I'd say anything with a dollar sign, we want to be involved in our clients' lives. The tax in the estate was the big project of the last few years. What else can we do to make our clients' lives easier and create that one-stop experience? That might mean the psychology of money. As our clients keep growing wealth, there's something about having, I don't want to say a financial therapist, but I think there will be more situations of, hey, how do we think through legacy planning and charitable giving and your kids and your grandkids, and like more on the ground budgeting or just thinking through spending habits. Having that type of conversation would open up other doors. We already have the estate planning specialist in-house. I think getting deeper into that as our clients, quite frankly, as their net worth grows and they're, if you're 40 with $4 million, by 60, back the napkin math, like you're going to be approaching estate tax. So that's not an issue that they need to think about or worry about now. But if we want to be their financial planner for 20, 30 years, which we do, and we typically are, then we want to go even deeper down that, hey, how do we talk about estate taxes?
Before we close, anything else that you feel like people should know about Drucker Wealth?
Actually working with Drucker Wealth, what does that look like? Everybody starts their engagement with an advisor at Drucker Wealth by doing what we call a financial life plan. It's a 2 to 3 month engagement. We charge a flat fee and we just walk through every aspect of your financial world. Spending habits, saving habits, your existing investment allocation, your retirement projections, your tax setup, your insurance needs. And we start mapping out your financial priorities and goals. What are you trying to get to? What is this all driving towards? And then we let them know, here's what you're doing. What are the tactical adjustments we can make? What are the more strategic or kind of life planning goals, conversations we want to have? So at the end of that, we are giving them an overview, a summary, and recommendations in every aspect of their financial work. That's really phase 1 of a client relationship. Phase 2 that most clients move on to is to say, hey, this is all great. Now we'd like your team's help to actually execute and implement everything you just told us. We want you to hold us accountable year over year. That's when clients become ongoing clients, where we have regular review meetings with them throughout the year. We're holding them accountable. We're making sure the plan moves forward. We think it makes sense for clients to work with a planner on an ongoing basis, especially our clients that are as busy, as high income, and that value their time as much as they do. We're not, as a firm, really interested in somebody that just wants a project, right? A one-time plan, because we think clients get more value from actually implementing the plan. And if we can't help or control how they implement, how much did we really do on the front end? But I want clients to make that decision at the end of the process, right? Not, hey, we're going to commit to you for life. So that was the most pitch part of anything we're going to talk about on this podcast. It wasn't even the intention, but again, you hear how we talk about planning. So it would probably be interesting or helpful to know, all right, well, how do they do planning? Like, how do they charge? When we talk about goals and priorities like we do, where does that come into the mix? When we talk about home purchase, like all of those conversations are part of that plan. And then they're part of the ongoing dynamic that we establish. And I'm not going to get into fees, although it's literally on our website. We don't hide anything. Anyway, that is our story for Drucker Wealth today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have any comments, questions, or anything you want us to talk about, or maybe even expand upon, we're always happy to do that. And we do look at them and as we plan out episodes ahead. Next time, I'm going to be doing a solo episode talking about I'm going to say 11 myths, but don't count me because we'll determine how many we actually want to discuss. But myths that people think about their money, about planning, about what's important, and then maybe how we think about that and give a little bit more context. So those are really going to be about the most important things we do think about day in and day out. So you won't want to miss that episode. And we'll see you next week. Have a great day.